This is the story of the morning dew.
Why would anybody want to look at a tragic accident? Well, the main reason, and it's something that's very important to do, is to learn from other people's mistakes so that we don't repeat them. So in this episode, Vin is going to talk about a tragic accident that occurred.
Yeah, so like Amy said, why do you want to learn about accidents? I mean, that's like a big bummer. And we're not meaning to bum anyone out, but the reason that we look at accident reports is for one simple reason. So we can avoid the same mistakes because there's nothing new under the sun. So in this episode, we're going to take a look at a sailing vessel, which is the same size as ours, 34 foot. And that's kind of in the middle of all of us, those of you who are sailors. Some of you have 25-foot boats, some of you have 45-foot boats, but a 34-foot sailing boat is kind of like right in the middle. And because it was a 34-foot sailing boat, it is a Cal 34, a great boat, and all hands were lost. Very tragic accident. A father and his two sons and their cousin, all killed. We don't want to dwell on the negative, but at the same time, if we can learn something, I'm sure they would all be grateful to have us learn something so we can avoid the same fate. This is the story of the morning dew. So this is from the official NTSB accident report. Basically, the events preceding the accident, there was a 49-year-old recreational boater. The captain planned to sail his newly purchased 34-foot sailboat, Morning Dew, from its berth in a marina at Little River in South Carolina to Jacksonville, Florida. According to family members, he was to be accompanied on the trip by his brother, his two sons, who were 16 and 13, and his 14-year-old nephew, which was the boy's cousin. So, what went wrong? So the report says the two men and the three teenagers arrived at Lightkeeper's Marina. We've gone through there many times on the ICW, where the Morning Dew was berthed, about 17:30 on the day after Christmas, December 26th. The brother told the investigators later, and again, he got off the boat. So he was able to tell them all later that after moving personal equipment and life preservers on the boat, he said that he and his brother, the captain, got up about 0600 the next day, and he took the boys out for breakfast at a nearby restaurant. And then they went and bought some nautical charts covering the ICW. Spoiler alert, note, there's nothing here that says that they also bought charts covering the coastal route outside the ICW South. The operator's brother, the uncle, stated later that because their father had been hospitalized, he decided to get off, and he didn't go with them. The brother stated that the operator, the captain, penciled in the intended route to Jacksonville on those charts, and that the entire route followed the ICW. He said the captain said nothing that would indicate that he had planned at any point along the route to leave the waterway, go through a channel, and take the vessel out to sea and go coastal cruising south. According to the report, a Georgetown salvage master said that later in the day on December 28th, about 14:30, which is kind of late in the day, he was proceeding inbound in the main shipping channel off Winya Bay when he met and passed the Morning Dew near Buoy 26. He said the sailing vessel was under power and was proceeding southeasterly in the main shipping channel, heading toward the ocean. The salvage master also stated that he saw 3 boys in windbreakers on the bow of the boat and an adult dressed in rain gear at the wheel. Now, as you can see, if you miss this turnoff, you're going to wind up out in the ocean and not the ICW. Here on my Navionics chart, because we've gone up and down this several times, and maybe some of you cruisers have also, but that blue pin is where you get onto the ICW, and if you keep going down that channel because you were in the wrong lane, because you didn't follow the markers, those aids to navigation, that's a navigational mistake. Unless you're intending to go through the channel out into the ocean and take the coastal route. Well, that's what happened with this boat, and there's nothing that indicates that that was their intention. That's what he had planned, and it doesn't say that he even had charts for the coastal route. He had clearly intended and communicated that he was going to stay on the ICW all the way down to Jacksonville. The salvage master stated that boaters proceeding south in the ICW occasionally failed to follow the ICW across Winya Bay and erroneously follow the main shipping channel toward the ocean. Believing that the operator of the Morning Dew may have made this mistake, he said he noted the name of the Morning Dew and made 4 or 5 unsuccessful attempts to reach the vessel using VHF channel 16. He said that a sport fishing vessel in the vicinity also attempted to call the Morning Dew but received no answer. So again, here in my eyes, a third mistake, the lack of monitoring the VHF. In this case, anybody can make a navigational error, but not having a VHF on board or not having it turned on to channel 16 while on board, that's some pretty serious negligence. Okay, well, where does that leave us? Well, we know that now they are out in the ocean and it's raining and it's quite late in the afternoon and it's December. So there's less sunlight too. So it's getting dark soon, they're out in the ocean, they don't have charts. So this is the route from the entrance to Winya Bay to the entrance to Charleston Bay. Okay, so the next thing we know, it's almost 2:30 a.m. in the morning and middle of the night. So the Communications Center of the U.S. Coast Guard, they hear a call consisting of U.S. Coast Guard, which the watchstander, who is the one that mans that radio, responded back and said he didn't hear anything. But the record shows that 4 minutes later, another radio transmission came in, which sounded like a brief burst of static and was received. And later replaying of the recording revealed that although the words of the second call were unintelligible, the call seemed to have been transmitted by the same person as the first call in the same urgent, shouting fashion. So now it's up to the watchkeeper to decide. Later during the investigation, when asked why he did not replay the recording of the 02-1700 call, he said, "I thought it wasn't an important enough call to go back to and listen to it. I didn't hear any distress words." However, when the investigating authorities did replay the tape recording of the 02-1700 hour call, it revealed what sounded like the voice of an excited adolescent male. The transmission, which lasted about 3 seconds, consisted of Mayday, U.S. Coast Guard, come in. When the watchstander was then asked whether he considered the excitement in the voice or the time of the night or the weather forecast when he was evaluating the call, he replied that seemingly excited young people talking loudly on the radio is not unusual. So he didn't do anything. So obviously something had gone terribly wrong, and here are my Navionics chart of the route. And I certainly would not want to be in that position at night in the rain without being able to see, without charts, because as you can see, you have to be aware of what the navigational issues are. And if you don't have a chart, you're headed for disaster. Well, not surprisingly and tragically, as the boat made its way down the coast in the dark, it slammed into the submerged stone jetty, ripped a big gash in the side of the boat. The boat sank. Next thing we know, later that morning, shortly before 11 o'clock in the morning, a couple walking along the beach a short distance northwest of Fort Moultrie on Sullivan's Island saw someone floating in the water. They described the water as rough and the winds as extremely strong. Another couple helped the first couple pull the body of a teenage boy out of the water and to summon help. The boy didn't have a pulse, and then the next teenager was found dead, and the third teenager was found dead, and then the father, the captain, was also found dead, all floating in the water at the beach. Well, what can we learn visualizing the chain of events that led up to the accident and the decision-making involved, whether it was good or bad, and to see where, had one of these events been removed from the chain, the accident may not have happened. It may have been avoided. So what do you think the mistakes were? Please leave comments. What can we learn from this terrible tragedy, the loss of life for this family? For those of you who want to read the full NTSB report, I've made a link below. You can click it and get the full PDF. And I hope this has been educational, and it'll help us all to become better and more educated boaters.